Think buying a cheap used car is saving you money. Think again, because some vehicles don't just lose value, they destroy bank accounts. And the worst part, many of these cars still look like great deals on dealership lots and Facebook Marketplace right now. Smooth test drive, clean interior, cheap price, but underneath, failing transmissions, coolant leaking into engines, electrical systems that randomly shut the car off while driving. Mechanics across America keep warning buyers about these exact models, because once these problems start, repair bills can hit $4,000, $7,000, even more than the car's worth. Today, we're counting down 12 used cars mechanics say are ticking time bombs, including one SUV so unreliable, some repair shops refuse to work on it anymore. And trust this, number 1 might be the most financially dangerous used vehicle on the road today. Number 12. Dodge Journey, 2009 to 2015. The Dodge Journey might look like the perfect budget family SUV. Cheap price, 3-row seating, low monthly payment, and everywhere across the used market, these things seem impossible to avoid, but mechanics know the truth. There's a reason these SUVs are so cheap, and it usually starts with the transmission. Early Dodge Journey models relied on an outdated 4-speed automatic transmission that already felt old when the vehicle was new. By today's standards, it's painfully fragile. Harsh shifts, delayed engagement, overheating, and complete transmission failure are incredibly common once mileage climbs past 80,000 to 100,000 miles. And unfortunately, that's only the beginning. The 2.4-liter engine in lower trims is notorious for poor thermal management. In simple terms, these engines run hot. A lot. Over time, that heat destroys seals, weakens head gaskets, and increases the risk of cylinder head cracking, one of the most expensive failures a budget SUV owner can face. Then come the electrical gremlins, dead batteries, random warning lights, door lock failures, push-button ignition issues, broken touchscreen systems. And because Chrysler's electronics from this era were notoriously inconsistent, diagnosing these problems can become a nightmare even for experienced technicians. What makes the Journey especially dangerous is how convincing it looks as a used car bargain. Families see affordable pricing and third-row seating and assume they're getting a hidden gem. Instead, many owners end up trapped in a cycle of constant repairs that slowly drain thousands of dollars over time. Even basic maintenance becomes frustrating because components are packed tightly into the engine bay, increasing labor costs for repairs that should have been simple. And here's the scary part. Many Dodge Journeys still look perfectly fine during a short test drive. No warning signs, no obvious noises, no immediate red flags, until suddenly, the transmission starts slipping on the highway or the engine overheats in traffic. That's why mechanics constantly warn buyers. A cheap Dodge Journey often becomes one of the most expensive budget SUVs you can own. And unfortunately, the next vehicle on this list may be even worse, because this one can literally shut itself down while you're driving. Number 11. Jeep Compass, 2007 to 2014. The early Jeep Compass sold buyers a dream, affordable SUV styling, Jeep branding, good fuel economy, and just enough rugged looks to make people think they were buying a mini off-roader. But under the surface, these early Compass models became infamous for some of the most frustrating electrical problems in the used SUV market, and the biggest culprit was something called the TIPM, the Totally Integrated Power Module. Now that sounds complicated, because it is. The TIPM basically controls major electrical functions throughout the vehicle: fuel delivery, ignition systems, lighting, electronics, starting systems, all routed through one central module. When it fails, everything starts going crazy. Mechanics have reported cases where these Compass models randomly stalled while driving, refused to start, activated horns for no reason, drained batteries overnight, or suddenly lost power without warning. And here's what makes it terrifying. Many of these issues happen intermittently, meaning the SUV may behave perfectly fine one day, then completely malfunction the next. Those are the kinds of problems mechanics hate most because they're difficult to diagnose and incredibly time-consuming to repair. But the problems don't stop there. Many 2007 to 2014 Compass models also suffer from weak CVT transmissions that develop overheating problems, jerking, whining noises, and eventual failure. Once mileage climbs, repair costs can quickly exceed the actual value of the vehicle. Interior quality also ages badly. Water leaks, failing switches, broken suspension components, premature rust in certain climates, climates. Everything starts adding up fast, and despite wearing the legendary Jeep badge, these early Compass models were never truly built for serious durability. In fact, many mechanics consider them one of the weakest vehicles Jeep produced during that era. The real danger is that buyers often assume Jeep automatically means dependable adventure capability. Instead, they end up with an SUV that spends more time chasing electrical issues than going anywhere adventurous. And what's coming next proves something important. Sometimes the most dangerous used vehicles aren't the oldest ones. They're the newer models hiding catastrophic engineering flaws under modern styling. Number 10, Chevrolet Cruze, 2011 to 2015. At first glance, the first generation Chevrolet Cruze seems like a smart used car buy. Modern styling, good fuel economy, affordable pricing, and plenty of them flooding the market for under $8,000. But mechanics across the country know something many buyers don't. These early turbocharged Cruze models can turn into non-stop repair machines, especially the ones equipped with the 1.4-liter turbo engine, and the nightmare usually starts with oil and coolant leaks. Plastic cooling components on these engines are notoriously weak. Thermostat housings crack, water outlets fail, coolant lines leak, and once overheating starts, things escalate fast. Because overheating on the Cruze often leads directly to head gasket failure. That means white smoke from the exhaust, coolant disappearing mysteriously, rough idle, misfires, and eventually massive engine repair bills that can exceed the value of the car itself. But that's only part of the problem. These engines are also infamous for turbocharger issues, valve cover failures, PCV system problems, and chronic oil leaks that keep returning even after repairs. Mechanics constantly describe these cars the same way. One repair leads to another. The worst part is how deceptively normal these cars feel during a quick test drive. The engine may sound smooth, the turbo may feel responsive, the interior still looks modern, but underneath, many of these vehicles are already developing hidden cooling system failures that owners won't discover until temperatures spike in traffic. And once mileage climbs past 100,000 miles, the repair list usually starts snowballing. Turbo replacement, cooling system rebuilds, head gasket work, sensor failures, electrical glitches. Suddenly, that cheap commuter car becomes a monthly financial punishment. Even experienced mechanics often warn buyers that fixing one major issue on an older Cruze simply exposes the next weak point waiting to fail. That's why many repair shops quietly recommend avoiding these model years altogether, especially if maintenance records are incomplete, because while the Cruze promised affordable transportation, for many owners, it delivered endless repair invoices instead. And the next vehicle on this list, it became so infamous for transmission failures that lawsuits, recalls, and owner outrage followed it for years. Number 9. Ford Focus, 2012 to 2016. The 2012 to 2016 Ford Focus should have been one of Ford's biggest success stories. Sharp handling, modern technology, excellent fuel economy. On paper, it looked like the perfect affordable compact car, but one engineering decision completely destroyed its reputation. The PowerShift transmission, and mechanics still talk about it like a horror story. Ford equipped these Focus models with a dual clutch automatic transmission designed to improve fuel economy and deliver sportier shifting. Instead, many owners experienced violent shuddering, hesitation, jerking, grinding noises, and dangerous delayed acceleration almost immediately after purchase. Some drivers described the car feeling like a beginner learning to drive stick shift for the very first time. Others reported terrifying moments where the car simply refused to move entering traffic. And here's what made the situation even worse. Many vehicles continued having problems even after multiple repairs. Mechanics eventually became so familiar with these failures that many could identify a bad Focus transmission before even opening the hood. And because the issues are deeply tied to the transmission's design itself, repairs often become temporary bandages rather than permanent fixes. But the transmission isn't the only concern. These Focus models also suffer from electrical issues, failing motor mounts, steering problems, and interior wear that ages poorly compared to rivals from Toyota or Honda. Yet despite all this, the used market keeps pulling buyers in. Why? Because these cars are cheap, extremely cheap, and for someone searching online, a low mileage Ford Focus with modern features can seem like an incredible deal compared to more expensive Japanese competitors. But mechanics warn that low purchase prices often hide high future costs. One major transmission repair alone can instantly wipe out any savings. And the scariest part, some of these transmissions fail with very little warning. One day the car drives normally, the next day it starts slipping, jerking, or refusing to engage change gears entirely. That unpredictability is exactly why so many mechanics call these Focus models ticking time bombs. And higher up this list, we're getting into vehicles where the repair bills don't just hurt, they can financially total the owner. Number 8. GMC Acadia, 2007 to 2017. The GMC Acadia was marketed as the perfect American family SUV. Big cabin, 3 rows, smooth ride, and enough space to haul kids, luggage, pets, and road trip gear without feeling cramped. But underneath that comfortable family image, some of these Acadias became absolute nightmares once mileage started climbing, and mechanics constantly point to 2 major disasters: the transmission and the timing chains. Let's start with the transmission. Early Acadia models are notorious for wave plate failure inside the automatic transmission. Now that might sound minor, but when that component breaks, the transmission can suddenly lose gears completely. Owners describe terrifying situations where the SUV refuses to accelerate properly or slams violently between shifts while merging onto highways. And fixing it? Not cheap. Transmission replacement bills regularly climb into the thousands, especially once labor costs are added. But somehow the engine problems can be even worse. The 3.6-liter V6 found in these Acadias developed a terrible reputation for premature timing chain stretching. Over time, the chains wear faster than expected, throwing off engine timing and triggering check engine lights, rough running, poor performance, and eventually severe internal engine damage if ignored. Here's the painful part. Repairing timing chains on this engine is extremely labor intensive. Mechanics often have to tear deep into the engine just to access the components, meaning repair costs can explode fast. And unfortunately, many owners don't catch the warning signs early enough. By the time symptoms appear, the repair estimate is already massive, but the Acadia keeps piling on problems: power steering failures, leaking sunroofs, electrical glitches, failing air conditioning systems, suspension wear. Once these SUVs age, the repair list starts stacking up rapidly, and what makes the Acadia especially dangerous is how appealing it still looks on the used market. Families see spacious seating and affordable pricing and assume they've found a practical alternative to a Toyota Highlander or Honda Pilot, but mechanics often see something very different: a high mileage SUV approaching multiple catastrophic failures at the same time. That's why many technicians quietly warn buyers to stay extremely cautious around these model years, because once major repairs begin, the Acadia can drain thousands of dollars faster than most families expect. And the next SUV on this list may be even more dangerous. Because its transmission failures became so widespread, they completely destroyed owner trust across an entire brand. Number 7. Nissan Rogue, 2008 to 2018. The Nissan Rogue became one of America's best-selling compact SUVs for a simple reason: it looked like a safe choice. Comfortable ride, great fuel economy, affordable used prices, family-friendly practicality, and for many buyers it seemed like the perfect alternative to more expensive Toyota and Honda SUVs. But mechanics know the hidden problem that turned these Rogues into ticking time bombs: the CVT transmission, more specifically Nissan's Jatco CVT. And for years, these transmissions developed one of the worst reputations in the entire used car market. Unlike traditional automatics, CVTs use belts and pulleys instead of fixed gears. In theory, they improve efficiency and smoothness. In reality, these Rogue transmissions became infamous for overheating, slipping, jerking, delayed acceleration, whining noises, and sudden total failure. Some owners reported the SUV losing power in the middle of highway driving, one of the scariest failures any driver can experience. And once symptoms begin, the transmission usually gets worse fast. Mechanics often describe it as a countdown clock. At first, drivers notice slight hesitation, then comes vibration, then overheating warnings, and eventually, complete transmission failure. The repair bills can easily hit several $1,000s, often more than the vehicle's resale value. But what frustrates mechanics most is how common these failures became. This wasn't a rare defect, it became a pattern repeated across hundreds of thousands of vehicles. And unfortunately, many used buyers don't know what they're walking into because the Rogue still feels refined during a short test drive. Quiet cabin, smooth steering, modern interior, everything seems fine until the CVT begins failing weeks or months later. And because transmission replacements are so expensive, many owners end up trapped, either spend thousands fixing the SUV or sell it at a massive loss. The Rogue also suffers from additional aging issues, including suspension wear, weak air conditioning systems, and electronic glitches that only increase ownership ownership costs over time. That's why so many independent mechanics now warn buyers to approach older Rogues with extreme caution, especially high mileage examples with unknown transmission service history. Because underneath the practical family SUV image, many of these Rogues are hiding one of the most feared transmissions in modern automotive history. And from this point forward, the vehicles on this list get even more financially dangerous, including luxury models capable of producing repair bills that rival mortgage payments. Number 6. Ford Fusion, 2013 to 2019. The Ford Fusion looked like Ford finally figured out the midsize sedan formula. Sleek styling, comfortable ride, modern technology, and available turbocharged EcoBoost engines that promised both power and fuel economy. For years, buyers thought they were getting a smarter alternative to cars like the Toyota Camry or Honda Accord, but hidden inside certain Fusion engines was a devastating design flaw that mechanics now warn people about constantly: coolant intrusion. And if that phrase sounds expensive, that's because it usually ends with a full engine replacement. The biggest troublemakers were the 1.5 liter and 2.0 liter EcoBoost engines. These engines developed internal weaknesses where coolant could leak directly into the engine cylinders. At first, the symptoms seem minor: rough idle, misfires, coolant slowly disappearing, a check engine light that comes and goes. Some owners even think it's just a spark plug problem, but underneath, coolant is literally entering places it should never be. Over time, the engine begins destroying itself from the inside out. Mechanics have reported cracked engine blocks, severe cylinder damage, and complete engine failure, often without much warning once the issue becomes serious. And here's the brutal part: repairing it usually isn't cheap enough to justify. In many cases, replacing the engine costs thousands of dollars, instantly wiping out the value advantage of buying a used Fusion in the first place. But these cars don't stop at engine trouble. Transmission hesitation, electrical glitches, failing backup cameras, turbocharger issues, weak battery systems. Once mileage climbs, repair costs can stack up frighteningly fast. And because the Fusion still looks modern today, many buyers completely underestimate the risks. That's what makes it dangerous. The styling aged well, the interior still feels upscale, and prices look tempting compared to Japanese rivals. But mechanics often see these cars arrive at the shop with catastrophic engine damage hiding beneath an otherwise clean exterior. Some owners discover the problem only after the car suddenly starts smoking, misfiring violently, or overheating during everyday driving. By then, the repair bill becomes financially crushing. That's why many technicians now recommend avoiding these EcoBoost Fusion model years entirely unless documented engine repairs have already been completed, because a cheap used Fusion can quickly transform into a several $1,000 disaster. And the next vehicle on this list proves something terrifying. Sometimes the most expensive used car mistakes come disguised as luxury bargains. Number 5. Jaguar F-Pace, 2017 to 2020. Few used luxury SUVs look more tempting than the Jaguar F-Pace. Aggressive styling, premium interior, strong performance, and a price tag that drops shockingly fast on the used market. At first glance, it feels like the ultimate hidden bargain, a luxury SUV that once cost serious money, now available for the price of a loaded Toyota Camry. But mechanics know exactly why these vehicles depreciate so brutally, because once the warranty disappears, the repair bills arrive fast, and they arrive often. The F-Pace developed a reputation for deep electrical problems that can turn ownership into a constant guessing game. Owners report frozen infotainment systems, blacked out screens, malfunctioning sensors, random warning lights, failing cameras, and electronic modules that suddenly stop communicating with each other. And diagnosing luxury electrical failures isn't simple. Repair shops often spend hours tracing issues through complicated wiring systems before even replacing a single part. That means labor costs alone can become painful. But unfortunately, the electrical issues are only part of the nightmare. Mechanics also report oil leaks, cooling system failures, suspension problems, turbocharger issues, and drivetrain faults appearing far earlier than buyers expect from a premium SUV. And because this is a Jaguar, parts pricing can become outrageous. Simple repairs that cost a few $100s on mainstream SUVs can suddenly cost thousands here. Even routine maintenance becomes expensive. Brakes, tires, sensors, battery systems, everything carries luxury level pricing long after the vehicle itself has lost luxury level value. That mismatch destroys owners financially. And here's the trap. Used F-Pace prices look incredibly attractive online. Some repair shops even warn customers that owning older Jaguars without a strong emergency repair fund is extremely risky, because one major electrical or drivetrain failure can instantly erase years of savings. Some owners end up abandoning the car entirely instead of fixing it. Number 4. Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid, 2017 to 2021. The Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid sounded like the future of family transportation, a plug-in hybrid minivan with impressive fuel economy, modern technology, quiet driving manners, and enough room to carry an entire family comfortably. And that's exactly why so many buyers got trapped, because behind the smooth ride and futuristic features, mechanics began seeing serious reliability nightmares pile up fast, especially once these vans aged out of warranty coverage. And hybrid repairs are never cheap. Once high voltage systems start failing, diagnosis alone can cost a fortune because specialized technicians and equipment are required. Then come the software problems, transmission programming glitches, infotainment crashes, frozen touchscreens, electrical bugs that randomly trigger warning lights or disable certain functions. Mechanics often describe these vans as rolling computers with too many systems trying to communicate at once. And when one module malfunctions, other systems can start acting strangely too. That's when owners suddenly face repair estimates worth thousands of dollars on a minivan that's already depreciating heavily. And unlike simpler gasoline-powered vans, hybrid components add another layer of complexity most independent repair shops aren't eager to handle. That leaves many owners dependent on expensive dealership service departments. What makes the Pacifica Hybrid especially dangerous is how convincing it feels during a test drive. Quiet cabin, smooth acceleration, premium features everywhere. It genuinely feels like a luxury family vehicle. But mechanics warn that once electrical and hybrid-related failures begin, ownership costs can spiral unbelievably fast. Some owners end up chasing software updates, battery issues, and charging system problems for months without fully resolving them. That's why reliability rankings for these model years consistently landed near the bottom of the segment despite how advanced the van appeared. They financially destroy owners long before the loan is even paid off. Number 3. Range Rover Sport, 2010 to 2016. Nothing screams luxury quite like a Range Rover Sport. The styling, the prestige, the commanding road presence. For many buyers, owning one feels like entering an entirely different level of success. And on the used market, these SUVs can seem shockingly affordable compared to their original sticker prices. A cheap used Range Rover is often one of the most expensive vehicles you can own. Let's start with the air suspension system. These SUVs rely on complex pneumatic suspension components designed to deliver that famous smooth Range Rover ride. But once the system starts aging, air struts, compressors, valves, and lines begin failing one after another. And when the suspension fully fails, the vehicle can become nearly undrivable. But somehow, the engine problems can hurt even more. Suffer from timing chain guide failures that can destroy the engine if ignored. Mechanics frequently hear rattling noises during cold starts, an early warning sign many owners overlook until catastrophic damage occurs. Then come the electrical nightmares, failing infotainment systems, random dashboard warnings, power liftgate failures, sensor malfunctions, battery drain issues, wiring faults buried deep inside the vehicle. Modern Range Rovers contain layers of interconnected electronics. What makes the Range Rover Sport especially dangerous is how emotionally convincing it is. People fall in love instantly. The leather interior, the ride quality, the prestige of the badge. Everything makes owners feel like they're getting a six-figure experience for a fraction of the original price. But mechanics often say the opposite is true. You're buying six-figure repair complexity at a discount. Some owners eventually reach the point where repair bills become so overwhelming, they're known for problems that can completely cripple the vehicle without warning. Number 2. Ford Escape, 2013 to 2019. The Ford Escape became one of the most common compact SUVs in America for a reason. Good fuel economy, comfortable interior, modern technology, affordable pricing, and turbocharged EcoBoost engines that made the SUV feel surprisingly quick. But mechanics now place these Escapes on avoid lists constantly because the EcoBoost engines are the biggest danger, especially the 1.5 liter and 2.0 liter versions. These engines suffer from the exact same coolant intrusion defects seen in the Ford Fusion. engine. Coolant leaks internally into the cylinders, causing rough starts, misfires, overheating, and eventually catastrophic engine damage. Mechanics have opened these engines to discover cracked blocks and severe internal damage that require complete engine replacement. On a used SUV worth maybe $8,000 to $12,000, that repair can instantly total the vehicle financially. But Ford didn't stop there. Transmission failures are also common once mileage increases. Then come the electrical problems, failing backup cameras, dead infotainment systems, sensor glitches, turbocharger issues, weak battery performance, and because modern Escapes are loaded with electronics, troubleshooting these failures can become extremely expensive in labor alone. The steering feels light, the cabin feels modern, fuel economy still looks attractive, nothing immediately screams major disaster. That's why so many used buyers walk directly into the trap. Mechanics often warn that these Escapes are the kind of vehicles that appear affordable up front but slowly drain owners through repeated high-cost repairs over time. But despite all these issues, there's still one vehicle mechanics fear even more, because the #1 ticking time bomb on this list became infamous for problems so severe, so widespread, and so unpredictable. Some owners considered it dangerous to drive at all. Number 1. Chrysler 200 2015 to 2017. The Chrysler 200 wasn't supposed to fail. In fact, Chrysler bet heavily on this car becoming a serious competitor to the Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, and Ford Fusion. It had sleek styling, a surprisingly upscale interior, modern technology, and available all-wheel drive. For a moment, it looked like Chrysler finally built a midsize sedan capable of competing with the best. The biggest disaster? The 9-speed automatic transmission. On paper, it sounded advanced and efficient. In reality, owners experienced harsh shifting, hesitation, random gear hunting, delayed acceleration, violent jerking, and sudden loss of power while driving. Some drivers reported terrifying moments where the car hesitated entering intersections or highways. And unfortunately, software updates rarely solved the problems completely. Mechanics repeatedly saw these transmissions return with the exact same complaints even after repairs. But the transmission nightmare was only the beginning. The Chrysler 200 also became infamous for deep electrical failures, random dashboard warnings, infotainment crashes, push-button start malfunctions, sensor failures, battery drain problems, and mysterious electronic glitches that were incredibly difficult to diagnose. Owners often describe the car as behaving unpredictably from one day to the next, one of the most dangerous failures any modern vehicle can experience. Imagine losing power steering and acceleration in traffic with almost no warning, everything stacked together into one giant ownership nightmare. And because resale values collapsed so quickly, many owners found themselves trapped owing more money than the vehicle was even worth. The Chrysler 200 looked modern, comfortable, and affordable, but mechanics saw something very different, a sedan capable of draining thousands of dollars while constantly leaving owners wondering what would fail next. The scary truth is that many of these vehicles are still sitting on dealership lots right now, looking like great deals. And unless buyers know the hidden failures mechanics see every day, they walk straight into repair nightmares that can destroy savings fast. So before buying any used car, always research the exact model, year, engine, and transmission, because one bad generation can turn a smart purchase into a financial disaster. And if you thought these were bad, wait until you see the vehicles mechanics say are actually built to survive 300,000 miles with barely any major repairs. That video is coming next. So subscribe to Automotive, because the wrong used car doesn't just waste money, it can financially trap you for years.